Hello, welcome back to Better Than Before. I am your host, Yami, and today we are talking about a very sensitive subject. But before we get into that, I just want to share. I hope you guys like my look today. I've got my glasses that I'm wearing. I feel like it's such a vibe. If you are not watching on the video, you can look at us. You can watch it over on Spotify or the YouTube channel. But I am very relaxed and cozy today with my sweats. Today it's supposed to be freezing in Houston, like actually, and people didn't go to work. People are snowed in some places. So today's a comfy, cozy day, and I just wanted to sit here and talk to you, have a heart to heart. Like I said, this is a sensitive subject, and I want to mention right now, I want to put out a trigger warning. We are going to talk about eating disorders here today and my experience and my journey with them. So if this is something that is too hard for you to listen to, believe me, please, I will not be offended. Stop this right now. You don't have to listen to it. But if you do want to hear my journey and how I overcame it, then by all means, I'd love to have you and share my journey with you. So I wrote down some notes because I didn't want to forget anything. I'm not reading a script or anything by any means, but this has happened so long ago that I don't remember all of it. I am 37 right now, and I would say that most of my life, I didn't really think I looked very different from people. I never really, I'm trying really hard to think about the first time that I saw my body and was like, oh, I hate this. And I think what I have come to the conclusion is I was in my dance team in high school. I was actually co-captain. I've been dancing my entire life, and I was around by a lot of skinny girls, right? And like I said, I never really thought about my body looking different or being a problem or anything until we were in high school, like I said, and we had our dance team pictures. And during the actual taking of the pictures, I believe I felt fine. It wasn't until we got the pictures back that we were wearing crop tops, and there was 7 of us, I believe, 7 or 8. And there was 4 of us on the floor and 3 of us on top, or 3 on the floor and 4 of us on top. I don't remember, but we were wearing crop tops. And I remember I was on the floor, and I remember having the low leggings, right? They weren't high-waisted at the time. And I had rolls because I was sitting down, and I had a little bit of rolls, and everybody else around me had a flat stomach. And that was when I was like, wait a minute, that's not cute. Why do I look like that at the time, right? And so at this point, I still had a pretty good relationship with food. I wasn't really working out. I was just dancing 24/7. And it wasn't an issue. It was kind of just like a seed was planted. You know what I mean? And it was one of those things where obviously I'll remember forever because I'm talking about it now. But it wasn't until I went into college that things really took a turn. And it was in college. So to give you a little bit of context, I stopped dancing in high school in junior year just because we had a dance teacher, someone quit, we didn't have a teacher, and it was just a lot of stuff, and I didn't want the drama, and I didn't want the pressure of coaching a whole dance team. I don't even remember that's what it was, but I don't remember, but I just quit, and my senior year, I wasn't dancing. And so come into college, I wanted to keep dancing, and so I auditioned for my dance team, and I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, this is so easy. I'm going to make it. It was a good dance team, but it wasn't elite, I know my strengths, I know my talent. And I was not thinking that I wasn't going to make it because I wasn't good enough. I was very confident in myself. I still had, honestly, I wish I was still as confident as I was back then. I mean, I'm much more confident now. I meant in the journey that I'm sharing right now. Now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it and saying it out loud, it makes me sad that Yami went away for so many years, and that people tried to change her, and that they just diminished her light and her confidence and her joy. But sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But so I auditioned for my dance team, And at this point, I haven't dieted. I haven't done anything. I just went in, auditioned again, thinking I was going to make it. And I didn't. I didn't make it. And I like criticism and I want to learn and I want to be better. So after the audition, I went up to the dance coach and I asked her, I was like, hey, thanks so much for having me. I'd love to come back next year and try out again. Can you give me some cues or some tips or some things that I can improve on so that I can work on them and come back and make the team? Well, she told me, work on your technique, which I was expecting because I hadn't danced for a year. And she said, and lose some weight. And I think, if I remember correctly, that was the first time someone told me that I needed to lose weight. And I was like, okay. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, sure, let's do it. And so I went in that year, and that was the first year that I really quote unquote watched what I was eating. I don't remember if I went on a strict diet at this point, but I was watching what I was eating and I started working on my technique, and things are going relatively normal at the time. Fast forward a year, I go back and I audition a second time. And I audition, I did not make it. I don't make it. And I went back again to her and I asked her, hey, what can I do? And she says, your technique has improved so much. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for putting in the effort, but you still need to lose some weight. So at this point, she has taken the technique part out of it. It's no longer about how good I danced or how bad I danced. It was just the way I looked. And so I said, okay. And so I went back, started dieting. And at this point, I was just me, trying to eat healthy. And once again, I worked on my technique, worked on my diet, come back a third time. The third time I come back, and at this point, I am fully confident that I'm going to make this dance team. I have showed up 3 years, like obviously that I want to be on this dance team. And I audition, I don't make it. This time they announce the girls right after the audition, like out loud. We were in an arena. I will never forget this day. And I was sitting on the bleachers with everybody, and she's announcing all of the girls that made it. And she gets to the end of the list. I don't hear my number, but then she says, and number 23, which is me, she said, number 23, can I please talk to you? And I was like, oh, she's going to tell me that she is going to personally invite me on this team, right? And so I come down, I go down the bleachers, and I go up to her, and she said, you have improved so much. You make me want to watch. I will never forget these words. You make me want to watch you. Your technique has improved so much, but unfortunately, your butt is just too big. I don't remember saying anything to her. All I remember is storming out of that arena, crying, bawling my eyes out. And I'll never forget, some girls on the dance team followed me out. And that was really kind and sweet of them. And they were trying to make me feel better. And they were just saying, oh, she's just so hard. She's very tough. She used to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, which makes total sense. And that, my friends, was the catalyst to my eating disorder that would, take over for I don't know how many years after. So that was that. During college, I decided that I was also going to try out for the Miami Heat. And it was around this time that I looked into a personal trainer. He gave me a meal plan and I just started really, really going after it. Like, I think I skipped this. So I did this during the second to third year that I was auditioning. And I remember going to the arena and running laps. Bro, it was just so bad. And I did a little bit of dancing, but not on the dance team. And I would go to the gym every day. It was, I would say that it wasn't the super unhealthy at this point, It wasn't super unhealthy, but it was beginning to become an obsession in my mind. So I graduate college. I'm still, doing the college life thing. And then after college, I graduate and I end up moving to New York City. I moved to New York City, and this is when things really, really shifted. And I went to pursue modeling. Honestly, why do I do this to myself? I went to pursue modeling, and I think about this frequently. Like, why did I want to model, right? And growing up, I was in ballet, and so I was always in like a leotard and tights and dancing. And all of the parents, I would always remember, I was always the tallest girl in the room. And I always remembered the parents talking to my parents and saying, oh, she should model, she should model. And I think that it was me listening to the other people's opinions that really thought, oh, yeah, maybe I should model because people said so. And so I moved to New York to pursue modeling. And like I said, this is where it started taking a pretty bad turn. And you can probably guess where this is going. But when I first got there, I felt still pretty confident that I can do anything. And I quickly noticed that I didn't look like any of the girls. Like none of them. Like if you are listening to this, you probably know what I look like. I'm a tall, curvy girl. And yeah, that's when my eating took a turn. At this point, I think I was trying all different kinds of diets. I was researching ways to lose weight. And, back in the day, this was like maybe 13, 14, 15 years ago. And I was eating, oh my gosh, wow, okay, let me think. So I would have for breakfast, those like Nature Valley granola bars, I would have one. Like, how the pack comes with two? I would have one. And then I think for lunch, I'd have half a can of tuna, some almonds, And for dinner, I'd have the second half of that can of tuna and then that second granola bar. You guys, I'm not kidding when I say that that's what I would eat. And, I'll never forget, I went to lunch with a friend and it was in the middle of when I was eating this way and my disordered eating was like at its height. And we were at a little cafe in New York. And I remember looking to my right and there was a glass case of like what they were offering, like sandwiches, pastries. And I remember seeing a grilled chicken panini. And all I wanted to do was eat it. And all my mind was saying, you can't eat that. You're going to get fat. You can't eat that. You're going to get fat. And that's what it was like. It was honestly, it was like a demon in my head telling me that food was horrible and that I have to work out 24/7. Speaking of working out, when I was working out in New York, my fitness went crazy. It was honestly an obsession. I would wake up at 5 a.m, walk my happy butt to the gym, be the first one there. For some reason, I thought like, oh, I had to be the first one there because that makes me more committed, more dedicated, which is complete BS, by the way. And I even went in a snowstorm. I will never forget. I put on my hunter boots. And when I tell you I was trudging through the snow was like up to my knees. And y'all, I am not a short girl. It was up to my knees. And I was walking to the gym. I should say it was like 5 blocks away. It wasn't like crazy long. I get to the gym and it was closed due to the snowstorm. And that's why I was like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why did I think I needed to go to the gym in the middle of a snowstorm? It was just so bad. And I even remember laying down when I would go to bed and I would gauge my progress, on how far my hips were protruding. So like, when you lay down sometimes, or some people have it and some people don't, your hips, you can feel them. I would just touch them and see how far out they were sticking out. And if they weren't sticking out far enough, then you weren't eating the next day. And so, yeah, that is kind of how it was going there. And like I said, I was trying every diet in the book, but I would always go back to just not eating. And if I had to eat something, it would be like one piece of this to kind of just hold me over, quote unquote. And it was just me, starving myself. And, I will say I never really got diagnosed by a doctor or anything with anorexia or anything, but this was just such a scary time in my life because, you feel so alone and you feel like, everything that you do eat, the way your body looks is wrong. And if you have one goal and that goal is to model, that's what your body looks like. And so when people don't want to accept you or hire you, you think, well, I'm the problem. And so I'll tell you a quick story. So how my eating disorder would go, like I said, it wasn't like let's say I had a shoot or something. I remember specifically I had like a lingerie shoot and I was so proud of myself because I booked it on my own. I'd never had an agency. And leading up to this photo shoot, like I said, I was starving myself. I would have a little bit of almonds, some tuna, like it was literally tuna, almonds, and the granola bar. And sometimes Greek yogurt. Oh, and protein drinks. Like just it was the Isopure when it was just the water and the protein, And so I did the shoot and it was fine, whatever. And on the way home, all I can think about was eating. And so I ordered some cookies from Insomnia. Not just a couple cookies. I ordered like a dozen cookies. And so my thought was, I'm going to reward myself for starving myself the week prior. It wasn't rewarding myself for the great shoot that I had. It was rewarding myself for starving myself, which was insane to think that I thought that way. And so I get home, I, settle in, my doorbell rings and it's Insomnia. And I'm like, oh, thank God, whatever. You guys, I ate the dozen cookies in less than 20 minutes. I devoured them. Like, did I enjoy them? Probably not. Did I taste them? Probably not. I just started binging like crazy. And after I finished, you guys, this is where it gets really like scary. After I finished, literally, I can't make this up. It was like a sitcom. I finished and then my doorbell rings again and I was like, I'm not expecting anything. Insomnia delivered the cookies again by mistake. And instead of me saying, oh no, I already got my order, I was like, thank you, closed the door, stuffed my face again. Stuffed it again. So I ate like 24 of these cookies. And if you know Insomnia, you know how like giant and gooey and like thick they are. And I'm actually thinking about it now and I'm getting so sick thinking about it. But it just goes to show you that I would starve myself and then I would binge. I would starve myself and then I would binge. And again, it's like you have no control over it and your mind just kind of goes gone and you eat these things and you're trying to obviously fulfill something in you that's not in you. And I did it through food. And so I had a lot of occasions like this where I would, get like the itch. It would feel like I had to scratch an itch, right? Like I need to do something. And I lived near CVS and I would go and I would buy like a bag of Reese's and a bag of stuffed pretzels and I would eat the whole thing in one sitting and I would hide it in my room. And, I don't feel shame now because unfortunately, these happens to so many girls and so many women. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we make it normal and the more we can get help. But I remember feeling shame back then. Like, why can't I get it together? Why can't I, eat just one? Why can't I have a healthy body? Why can't I look a certain way? Why? And I was making myself the victim. And I was falling into this victim trap of me being stuck in it. And I'll share something that I've never actually shared. And I get nervous because, like I said, I've never shared it. Only Taz knows. And okay, okay, I'm gonna try not to cry. So sometimes I would make myself throw up after binging because I just felt so sick to my stomach and I felt so guilty and I felt there was just so many feelings there of not being good enough. Like, how dare you do this? Like you're killing yourself. You're making things worse. And I just did it. And thankfully I didn't do it that much. I think maybe it was like max 10 times. I don't know. But truthfully, one time is one time too many. And that is something that I have felt, a lot of shame around. I don't know why that makes me that gives me a little bit more shame than the starving part. I feel like it's just like one step above that, and I don't know, but honestly, it feels good to get it out and I'm no longer in that. And so it's a testament of how, we could overcome these problems that we all struggle with. Um, but that happened all like most of all of my time in New York City. I would go through these phases of starving myself and binging and throwing up, starving myself, binging and throwing up. And there was one point where I was getting pretty skinny and I felt proud and I was going to these agencies and nobody would sign me. And I'm like, come on, like, what do I have to do? Like, oh my gosh, you guys, I just had a thought about something. So I went to an agency and they gave me measurements that they wanted me to be. And since my booty was big, they're like, if you can get your hips to a size 36 inch, we'll sign you. Like, that's what they said. So I typed out a 36 and I edited it in the Instagram, like back in the day, those filters, and I screenshotted it and I made it my screensaver. Like that was what I would see when I opened up my phone because I needed to be 36 inches and I was going to do everything it takes for me to become 36 inches around my hips. Which is crazy to think. Like I think of these stories that I'm telling you guys, and then I think of my daughter. And if she ever thought what I thought about myself, like I would be devastated. Like I'm tearing up because no one should ever feel that inferior, that inadequate. No one needs to change their bodies to look a certain way just because somebody else said so. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so angry at myself. But back to this agency story. So agencies wouldn't sign me, and I had a friend who was signed to an agency, and she's like, "Oh, I can get you a meeting." And when that happens, that's usually really good. I actually don't remember if I've told this story or not, but just in case, And so I go to this agency and it's a one-on-one meeting, which is usually a good thing. That means that you might get signed like on the spot because you have a connect. And so I go, I'm feeling really, really good. Like I said, I've lost a lot of weight at this point. And a super long story short, she goes to give my portfolio to the other agents. She comes back with a measuring tape. She starts measuring me. And she just says, unfortunately, you're just too big. And I'll never forget this either. I was in like one of their boardrooms and they have these giant windows. And it was across the street from some store that had a poster. Well, the store didn't have the poster. The building had like a giant billboard of Beyonce on Sports Illustrated. And I said something along the lines of like, well, if Beyonce can do it, why can't I? And she looked at me straight in the eyes, dead set, and was like, you're not Beyonce. And I was like, no crap. I know I'm not Beyonce. Like, I'm not stupid. And she proceeded to be like, well, have you tried working out? Have you tried all of this? And meanwhile, my boxing gloves are like hanging out of my bag. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then she said, have you tried a Coke? And I was like Coca-Cola? She's like, no, like Coke. And she like did the motion of the nose, And I was like, nope. And I ran out of there with tears in my eyes. And I remember going back to my apartment and just sobbing and thinking, I'm done with this. Like, this is not a way to live. This is not like, why am I pursuing this? Like, for what? And I even considered moving back home to Florida. And I don't remember, the nitty gritty parts after that, but I remember it was around this time, like I mentioned, I was boxing and I was, I'm starting to weightlift and I started to enjoy the process and the process of working out correctly, right? Because I was just doing cardio and abs back in the day. And I got hired at Equinox, which is where I met Taz. And something in me was like, well, you know what? If I can't do like the straight modeling, just, regular modeling, I'll switch gears and I'll do fitness modeling because they liked more mass, more muscle. And I thought, well, my booty. And it was the same thing, you guys. Like, it was the same thing. They brought over the freaking measuring tape. They compared me to all these people. And I never got to the size they wanted me to get. And, thankfully now all these regular size women, that's what's taking over the modeling world, which is so good to see. But sometimes I'll be 1,000% honest, y'all. I'm like, well, what about me? Like, I still can't live out my dream, right? Because it happened way after I tried. And, at the end of the day, like, I'm so happy that that is happening because that's helping so many girls not fall into these traps of eating disorders. And, so it's all good. It's just like the woe is me part that I was like, well, what about me? Why can't I like reach for my dreams, or why can't I get the goals that I want? But anyway, so all of that happens around this time. I start my YouTube channel and I start posting a lot of fitness content, and I start posting fitness content on Instagram, and it was more so to document my process. And once I started doing more fitness stuff, I started getting served more like bodybuilding stuff, and the seed was planted. I wanted to do a bodybuilding competition. And at this point, I think I was lying to myself when it was like, oh, I want to do this healthy. I think it was more so like, oh, this is another way for me to lose weight and to be in shape and look a certain way, right? And so, long story short, we moved to New Hampshire. I start prepping. I did 8 bodybuilding shows in 1 year. In 1 year. And I will say at this point, I'm still eating relatively okay. I think at this point I was educating myself on how to eat properly. Like I said, I was posting a lot of fitness stuff. And at this point, I think if It's Your Macros started, booming. And so I tried macros, but I should also say that I was still binging at some points. So I wasn't fully gone. And so I do bodybuilding. I start, I was on a meal plan. I think it was like the first 2 shows or something. That's when I was binging because I was so strict with what I was eating, and I didn't have anywhere to, like, I couldn't, it's just not sustainable. Like, meal plans are not sustainable, but that just goes to show you how unsustainable they are because you just want to get away from the meal plan. So anyway, I think might have been like my last show or my second to last show. I'll never forget. I was in Taz's parents' house. We were living with them at the time, and everybody was out of the house. Everybody. And if you know Taz and his family, they have good food, like good snack food. They have desserts. They have all these things. And like I said, I could close my eyes and I can physically feel myself. I had the itch that I needed to scratch, right? And at this point, I don't think I had binged in a really long time. And I look at this cabinet, or I open the cabinet to scratch my itch. And I see all of these things. I think I was wanting like peanut butters, like nut butters, and I just wanted to like devour it. And excuse me. I remember opening the cabinet and I remember looking at everything. And I just thought in my head, you have 2 choices right now. You could do this and fall, or you could close the cabinet and leave. And you guys, I don't know what came over me, but I closed the cabinet and I left. And I have never, and when I say never, I have never had the urge to binge after that. And I wish I could tell you what it was. I wish I could give you a step-by-step instruction guide to tell you how to stop this. But honestly, I think at the end of the day, when a person decides enough is enough, that's when it changes. I could say the same thing for, fitness goals. You want to become better at something. You want to lose weight, healthy, you guys. I think it's when we say enough is enough that something in our mind changes, and that's it. I don't remember the last time I binged. I don't remember the last time I starved myself. Like, you can't pay me to starve myself now. Like, there's no shot. And I don't want to say that my mentality is 1,000% great. Like, of course, there are times where I see myself and I'm like, ugh, I wish I looked a little bit like this. I wish I had a little bit less belly. I wish I had a little bit less booty because of all the things that have been said to me throughout my years. But it's a journey, right? And I think it's stopping those thoughts before they overcome our brains. And I am in such a good spot right now, y'all. And I just want to encourage somebody that if you are going through this, if you are in the middle of it, or if you're, lapsing, or I guess relapsing, I don't know the word, you're not alone, okay? And there is hope, and you will overcome it. And I do want to mention that if you are in the middle of this and you don't see a way out, please get help. There is nothing wrong with help. There is nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I want to be better. I don't want to live like this anymore. And just reaching out to somebody that can help you. If you don't know who to reach out to, confide in a friend. Honestly, if you can, tell your mom. Tell your mom or your best friend, and hopefully they can look at you and guide you into finding somebody that could help you, because you don't deserve to live like this. There's so much more than what you look like in this world. You are so much more than what you look like. You are not born to look, or what was I going to say? You are not born to, what's the quote? Oh, the way you look is not the most important thing about you. Okay? I'm going to say it again. The way you look is not the most important thing about you. I wish somebody told me that when I was 22. I wish somebody told me that when I was 20. I wish someone told me that, heck, when I was 26. Because society has taught us that women need to look a certain way. And if we don't, we are not as important, not as pretty, not as valuable, not as worthy. And I'm here to remind you that that is not true. You are worthy exactly the way you are, exactly the way you look. Now, do you want to improve some stuff? Sure, by all means, do it. But please, 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 and hear me when I say this, you are perfect the way you are. You are perfect. You don't need a new diet. You don't need to lose 10 pounds. You don't need. And I want to be delicate in saying this, because I am in the fitness world and I am a trainer and I have an app and I have all these things. There is nothing wrong with wanting to improve, but I think it needs to come from a place of love, not a place of disgust. And I use that word because that's what it was for me. And I think that your mind needs to get fixed first before you start a fitness journey, if that's what's in your mind. Because what's going to happen is, it's what happened to me. You're going to use whatever vehicle, let's just say my example, bodybuilding, it's just going to feed the eating disorder. Okay. And I hope what I'm saying makes sense, but I think the mentality portion is so important. And I would hate for you to say, I'm good. I just want to eat healthy. I want to be a Pilates girly. I want to take some classes. But down the road, you start eating less and less and less. You start going to more and more classes because you want to move more. You want to get skinnier. And that is what I don't want you to fall into. I want you to want to be healthy, not for what you look like, but how you feel, because that is when everything changes. I mentioned this in one of my vlogs, but I can see now that I wasn't enjoying fitness back in the day, because it was like one of those things like, I am forcing my body to change. I am forcing my body to do something it does not want to do. Now I have found how I like to move, when I like to move, how long I like to move, what lights me up. And I actually get excited because I'm fueling my body, I'm energizing my body, and I'm showing love to it. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but I'll reiterate this. If you are someone that is going through this and you feel like you can't escape it, please reach out for help. Like I said, there's no shame in it. And I think to wrap things up, I think about Luna all the time now, and how, I want her to grow up and how I want her to feel in her body. And like I said earlier, like I would never want her to feel the things that I felt. I never want her to go through what I went through. So I'm making it my mission to, show her what feel good movements are. I want, well, for me, right? I want her to explore for herself, but I want to show her what feeling your body looks like. I want to show her what loving your body looks like. I want to show her what confidence looks like because, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, Yami was confident back in the day. Yami, before the eating disorder, she was untouchable. She was full of joy and happiness, and she did not think about her body twice. Like I said, it was like the least important thing. I was doing sports. I was playing with friends. I was dancing. I was, writing lyrics of songs. Like I was doing things. And once I became infatuated with my body and what it looked like, everything else fell by the wayside. My number one priority was to get skinny, and I was going to do whatever it takes to get skinny. And then it's just so sad. And so I don't want my daughter to go through that. And I don't want any of you guys to go through that or your children to go through that because, like I said, it's not a good place to be. And I'm so grateful that I'm out of it. And I'm so grateful that I'm here. And, now that I'm saying this out loud, I think everything had to happen the way it happened, because if my story could impact somebody, then my job here is done. Right. So that's it. I'm going to end it right here. This is a pretty long episode. I apologize. But if you have any questions at all, I'd be happy to answer them. I am an open book, especially now after sharing some things that I've never shared. Thank you so much for listening and holding some space for me, because I know that this is a very vulnerable subject. And if you listened all the way through, again, thank you. I love you. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable and just sharing my heart and my story. And like I said, if you're going through this, there's no shame in getting some help. You could even reach out to me if you want to, and I can try to help you find somebody. So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed it, let me know. Send me a DM or leave a comment or whatever it is. But thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Love ya.